I'm Dr. Bornstein from Pediatrics, and today we're going to talk about a subject regarding your child's health. I thought it would be appropriate this time of year, and given the unusual circumstance that both the Middleborough and the Apponequet high school football teams are unbeaten, something that never happened in my lifetime as a student, that we should talk about supplement use in athletes. This is a common question that comes up with my teenagers when they come into the office. It's something that people don't know a lot of information about, and something there's a lot of misinformation about. And so I'm hoping to give you some insight in terms of how to approach this with your teenager, or if you're a teenager watching this, how to approach this yourself. The first question is, why do teenagers even think about using supplements in the first place? Athletes do this because they're looking to gain an edge. They want to be better at their sport. They want to be more physically fit for their sport. In some cases, such as in football, they're looking to gain weight, for instance, to improve at their sport. They may be looking to gain speed or strength, or they may be advised to do this because somehow they think this is going to make them a better athlete. There's plenty of advertising to support this on TV for those who watch professional sports. But teenagers who aren't athletes formally for their schools also are interested in supplements. A lot of it has to do with how their body looks. Kids will take supplements with the hope that they will lose weight, look more trim, get stronger. And so the use is very, very common. In the United States, this is a huge industry. Over 33 million Americans are estimated to be using supplements on a regular basis. There's over 5,000 stores around the country that are specifically to sell vitamins and supplements, stores that you can find in your mall or in the outlets. This industry as a whole is almost a $3 billion $3 billion a year industry. So there's a lot of incentives financially to be pushing supplements onto people, particularly young people who are susceptible to the advertising. The real question is, does it have value? So the question becomes the Shakespearean question of to supplement or not to supplement. So I want to tell you a quick story. I had a patient of mine who played baseball in college, and he came to me because he was concerned about the pressures to use supplements and steroids actually at that level to be successful in baseball. He was not interested in doing this. His impression was that everyone else was doing this. And he ultimately made the decision to stop playing baseball even though he had a scholarship because he wasn't willing to take on the risks that some of these supplements or the steroids would have for him. So this was a smart kid because he understood that there's a lot of potential dangers in supplement use. And that the need to win should not trump your overall long-term health. One thing that people may not be aware of is that supplements, whether they're vitamins or powders or shakes, are not regulated by the government the same way that medications are. They're governed under a separate act called the Federal Supplement Act that views them as a dietary aid. What this means is that the FDA has no authority to intercede over the manufacturing processes of the product, the marketing of the product, or the research behind the product, except in very, very limited circumstances. The FDA does not have any authority to investigate any of these companies unless there's significant complaints that are filed. So for instance, in the case of ephedra, which was a supplement that was on the market a few years ago, the FDA could only intervene after there had been 12 deaths related to the product. There were no requirements for these companies to actually have evidence to bolster their claims that they are a health aid. The only thing that these companies cannot state is that they have specific benefit for a disease process. So you may be familiar to hear on the marketing how this will help improve your overall health, that taking this vitamin will make you a healthier individual or boost your immunity. They're allowed to make these claims even though there's no data to support that. The only aspect related to disease is that they can make a claim related to helping with an illness as long as they make the disclaimer in the label that there is a lack of proof that this product may actually help you in that illness. So how many people actually read the small print when they say there's a lack of proof and don't pay attention to all the advertising that says this pill will help you with your joints or with your depression? I'm going to focus on these types of products today because the things that are obviously illegal, anabolic steroids, human growth hormone, I don't need to talk much about that. We know that they're not safe for kids, and that should be self-evident. One of the more common situations I'll come into is a skinny teenager, built like myself, who will come in looking to gain weight for whatever reason it might be it for his sport or just to feel better about himself. And will say that he's started to go to the gym and started to take a protein powder or protein shakes to help gain weight. And then the mother or the father who's sitting next to him says, is this really making sense? Should we be buying this product? So the question is, do protein powders really help? And what are the goals of buying a protein powder? People buy protein powders more for two reasons. They usually feel that's going to improve their bulk, improve their strength, or occasionally improve their recovery from activity. But is there really any evidence to suggest this is true? The first thing I would say is that for my younger boys who haven't even gone through puberty, until you have the hormones flowing through your body, testosterone, you will not look like Arnold Schwarzenegger no matter how much or what you eat. So there should be no consideration of any of these supplements in a prepubescent child. It makes zero sense biologically that they would provide any benefit whatsoever. What I often find is that teenagers think that this is a fast path to success, that taking this magical powder will somehow suddenly make them look bulky and strong like whatever action figure they want to be. That is not true either. Taking any kind of nutrient into your body will only matter if you put the work into your body to actually build the muscle that you need. So what I explained is that there is no quick path to success, that the only way to gain strength and to gain bulk is to do the appropriate type of workout. And with that, you have to have the appropriate substrate to help you build that muscle. So do protein powders or shakes offer an advantage over regular food? Well, the data would clearly say no, that there is nothing magical about protein irrespective of what form it is in. Whether it's in chicken or eggs or a powder that you don't recognize, protein is protein. How you get it doesn't matter. It gets in your body. What does matter is how these protein powders are actually manufactured and made. So in 2010, there was a very important, interesting study done through Consumer Reports where they took a number of over-the-counter protein powders and shakes that were popular, and they ran them through their laboratory to see if there were any contaminants in them. And 100% of all the products that they tested had some form of a heavy metal in them, whether it was cadmium, lead, mercury, or arsenic. I don't think those are really considered to be essential ingredients to make yourself stronger or better athlete. People don't realize that, these things are made in a factory, and that unless you have pristine manufacturing processes, that you're not going to get a pure substance. And the person who is marketing these to you doesn't care about your health. They care about you buying the product. So the first thing I always point out is that you can never guarantee yourself that you're getting a pure product. You can't guarantee yourself that these aren't laced. The other thing that's important to recognize is that these companies have been successfully sued by professional athletes who thought they were getting one thing and ended up getting another thing. So there was a lawsuit many years ago against one of the companies by Michael Cloud, who was a running back for Boston College and went on to the NFL, because he got suspended for being tested positive for an anabolic steroid. And it turned out that the precursors for that steroid were in a protein powder that he was getting on the advice of his nutritionist that he was unaware of. And he successfully sued this company for having an unlabeled steroid in their product. There have been other cases as well, but this one kind of struck home because he was a local college grad. So you're really kind of dealing with an unsafe unknown when you're dealing with these powders. The good news is that food works. And because there's nothing more special about the protein in your whey protein powder versus the protein in your dairy foods or your eggs or your meats or your beans, I tell kids you can have the best of both worlds. You can eat food that you like, that tastes good, that costs a lot less money than buying a big tub for $45, and still get the same amount of success if you put your time into the gym and if you put your time into your training. So my final statement around protein supplements and shakes is that they're not worth it, they're potentially risky, they're more expensive than what nature gave us, which is regular food, and that we should stay away from them, particularly in our young kids. Another popular question is about the question of creatine. Creatine has been popularized because it is a component of the energy sources for your muscles. And if your muscles have good energy, you might be able to perform better at your sport. Is there data to support the use of creatine? So interestingly, there is some good data in very specific circumstances that creatine may help certain types of athletes. Creatine has been shown in high caliber Olympic style athletes to have some benefits with burst sports. So if you're an Olympic swimmer doing a sprint, or if you're running the 50-meter dash, or if you're a power lifter, it may provide a little bit more burst for that type of athlete. But that's only been replicated on professional Olympic level athletes. The other thing that's interesting about creatine is that not everyone responds to it, and a good 30% of people don't respond to it whatsoever. So for your typical high school athlete, this really should have no benefit, because none of our high school athletes are that caliber other than those who are already on the Olympic track. So the other issue with creatine is it comes in a powder form, and so in the same way that your protein powders can be contaminated, so can the creatine products. So again, we have a lot of discussion about how it can be safe with these products if you're going to use them. There is a website that I do refer people to, whether they're using vitamin D or a protein powder or any kind of supplement that they want to use, called www.consumerlab. And this is an actual laboratory that runs all these products through their equipment to see exactly what's in the product. It's a good resource if you're trying to investigate a class of vitamins or a class of supplements to get a sense of which products may have impurities and which products actually contain the ingredients that you're looking to have. I usually push people in that direction. The last thing I want to say about creatine is, because there's some good research on this, the American Committee on Sports Medicine actually has a position statement on the use of creatine in athletes, and they specifically state that creatine should not be used for children under the age of 18. So this committee, which admits that for certain athletes there may be some benefits, recognize that the science does not support that there's any utility for the use of creatine in adolescent patients. And so therefore I usually try to push people away from using this product. Again, it tends to be a waste of their money. They'd be better off investing their money in the gym membership and in getting a good athletic trainer who can tailor their training to what their specific athletic goals are. The last segment of supplements I want to talk about is something we all use, and that is caffeine and energy drinks. Adults, we use this all the time to help wake us up in the morning and get us feeling ready for work. Kids nowadays use a lot of caffeine to get themselves up in the morning and ready for school. Athletes, however, sometimes will use caffeine and energy drinks specifically because they think it will enhance their performance on the field. And we hear about this a lot also in professional sports, where people are using stimulants for the same sort of reason. So let's first talk about sports drinks. Sports drinks are what we are all used to. They are available at the supermarket. They are marketed for sports activities. They replace glucose, which is a sugar that you need for energy, and they replace electrolytes, salts that you might lose through sweat. These are appropriate for use during sports. They are not needed if you're doing a quiet activity for 20 minutes. Their indication is really for vigorous activity over an hour. The best way to hydrate yourself during less active, shorter duration sports still is water. We do have some concerns about people drinking sports drinks at inappropriate times of the day and the calories that come from them. But these are actually good products. They are designed specifically for that purpose. The original product, which I will not name, was named for the college sports team's mascot at the university where it was developed, as a trivia item. You can guess what that college might be. But these are appropriate products to use on the sideline, and they are certainly safe to use for athletes during that time. What about energy drinks, though? Energy drinks are different. They're marketed to give you a boost of energy. These drinks all contain caffeine. They also contain other compounds that get converted into caffeine, things like taurine and ginseng, and they have extraordinarily high levels of caffeine. So I'm going to tell you a quick little medical story about the consequences of this. I had a patient who was a teenager who came into my office. He's always been a bit of an anxious, edgy sort of patient. He came in for a physical, and his blood pressure was very high. And that's not uncommon at the time when they're getting shots and other things going on in the physical. We said, come back on another day, we'll recheck the blood pressure. So he came back on another afternoon, and lo and behold, the blood pressure was still high. So I started asking some questions, and I asked him, do you drink caffeine or energy drinks? And the first word out of his mother's mouth is, all he wants to drink is this brand energy drink. And I said, really, have you had any today? And he said, yes, I had a big can and a small can. So we calculated out how much caffeine that was equivalent to. So what was on the label, which is not including all the caffeine, was the equivalent to drinking 8 cups of coffee within 30 minutes. You can imagine what that might do to your heart rate, your blood pressure, your tremors, and your overall anxiety and edginess. So we had a long discussion about that and about weaning him off the caffeine slowly so he didn't have all the caffeine withdrawal effects that people experience. And I actually just saw him recently, and they've noted that he seems a lot calmer, a lot less edgy, and feeling better overall since he's been off of the energy drinks. So these are not benign. These are not benign drinks. There's been plenty of recorded literature of their danger in college students with kids who've died, combining that with alcohol. And they offer no benefit to the athlete. In fact, high amounts of caffeine actually use up some of your energy stores faster and fatigue you faster for your sport. So the key to being an athlete with hydration is not caffeine. It's actually the opposite. We try to avoid caffeine and focus on good hydration and replenishment of the nutrients you need, particularly the sugars and the electrolytes, if you're doing very vigorous activity. So we really, really caution people about energy drinks. They're overused in teenagers to combat issues of sleep deprivation, which I will get to in a minute. And they offer negative benefit to a performance athlete. There is one last type of drink I do want to discuss, which actually has an excellent source for recovery. Unlike all the protein shakes and the things that are marketed that haven't been proven, chocolate milk is actually a very good post-sport drink. It offers proteins, fats, sugars in the right combinations. It tastes good, is far less expensive than all those other products out there on the market. I will tell you, my wife, who's gotten into running and gotten into triathlons, is the first thing she grabs after her race. That is actually a very good post-activity drink. I would not suggest you do it right before your sport, but right afterward, a very good recovery drink to help your muscles restore some of the glycogen and protein that they need. The last topic I want to talk about with athletes is something that can make all your athletes better, and has been shown to do that, and that is getting adequate sleep, which it seems like nowadays virtually no teenager gets. Because they're up late between sports and homework and then having to wake up early for high school, most teenagers are sleep deprived. So there was an article I read previewing the football season about LaShawn McCoy, who plays for the Philadelphia Eagles, and more specifically about their coach, Chip Kelly, who has taken in all this nutritional information and health information and applied the sciences to his team to enhance performance. And one of the things I noticed in the article is that he has all of his players with sleep monitors at night and demands that all of his players get a minimum of 10 to 12 hours of sleep a night. If it sounds like a lot to you, it was a lot to these professional athletes who are used to running their own lives and didn't feel like they wanted someone watching them while they're sleeping to make sure they're getting enough sleep. But the science really supported this, and one of the things in the article was their star running back, LaShawn McCoy, talked about how much better he felt during the football season last season when he was one of the best running backs in the league in terms of his ability to perform and, importantly, in terms of his stamina throughout the game. A couple weeks ago, I was at the American Academy of Pediatrics National Convention, and I sat in on the day on sports medicine, and one of the speakers commented about a study where they had taken the Stanford men's basketball team and asked them all to try to get an additional 1 to 2 hours of sleep every night. And then at the end of the season, they took some of the data from the men's basketball team to see if this enhanced performance. And what they found was that the free throw success rate on their team went up by 9%. The overall rates of feeling well and happiness were up significantly as well. The players reported decreased fatigue throughout the game, so they had improved stamina all the way to the end of the game. And they also were able to record faster sprint times than they had in previous seasons. So sleep has an important proven benefit in terms of sports performance. The last and most telling study that really struck me was a study that looked at kids from 7th grade to 12th grade on kids who got adequate amounts of sleep. By their definition, was 8 or more hours of sleep a night, and kids who got less than 8 hours of sleep a night. And what they found was that in the kids who got 8 hours more of sleep at night, their risks of sports-related injury was decreased by 50% over the kids who were sleep deprived. That's where I get interested as a pediatrician. I don't want to see your kid coming in with a knee injury or shin splints or some other injury, when I realized that the thing that simply could help prevent this or reduce the risk of that by a half would be to get enough sleep at night. So to summarize, These would be the talking points with your athletes about how to make them a better athlete. Number 1, if it's illegal, it is not good for you and you should not take it. Number 2, eat healthy, eat real food, don't eat food in the shape of a powder. Number 3, get enough sleep. Number 4, train specific to your sport. Talk with your high school trainers about what your goals are and let them design a program that will help you achieve your personal goals for your sport. And then 5, if you really feel like you need to use something despite the risks, go to a website like www.consumerlab.org so you can at least be an informed consumer and have some idea of what you're purchasing and what the real product is and what their risks are. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this information useful. If there are other questions or concerns that you have that you would like me to discuss, please send that information to LakeCAM where they can pass that information along to me. We hope to see you again in a future week.